Leading your parade this afternoon, please welcome 50 musicians from the Southern Highlanders, pipes and drums, playing a medley of songs from the 1950s, including well-known classics such as Green Hills, Scotland the Brave and Bluebells. Today's lone piper is James Rowley from Scots Care. Following them are dancers from the Royal Academy of Dance performing a specially choreographed nautical routine. They're going to be dancing all the way around the parade, so do give them your support as they pass by. Represented here are community, civic, social groups, Commonwealth and the sea. And amongst the seashells and starfish, you will recognise the Royal Yacht Britannia, which served the royal family from 1953 to 1997. As our parade starts, please give them a huge round of applause as they make their way down the mall.
I'm going to ask you about that. Giles, let's just talk about the Royal Yacht Britannia then, and its representation right up at the start of this parade. Many people will remember that indeed when it was decommissioned, it's probably, I would say, the only time in public when we've actually believed that we saw the Queen shed a tear, and it was because so many memories were tied up with that vessel.
Totally. It was very controversial. I think the Queen and Prince Philip were disappointed that the government at the time felt it couldn't afford to have another Britannia built, because it was not only a place they'd been to on official trips, but it was also their safe haven. They used it to travel around the British Isles and to be private. It was a little world for them, a cocoon.
And really, what a beautiful scene that is, Katie Nicholl on the Mall. We see the colour, we see that beautiful depiction of the, of course, now decommissioned Royal Yacht Britannia, which, as Giles was saying, was a place really of haven and a cocoon for the royal family, and we wonder what memories might be occurring to them as they sit at the top of the Mall watching it come through the sea of people and towards them. But certainly the sun is out, London is celebrating, and we're sure across the whole of the UK today people are holding their own parties and raising a glass to Her Majesty.
Yeah, it's very special. It started with the Britannia, and it will bring all sorts of memories back. I mean, this was quite deliberate. When I spoke to Peter Phillips, he said he wanted this to be in the opening sequence to bring back those memories, some of the happiest times for the family. They could get away from it all and be together as a family. And this structure has been made out of kite technology, so I don't know how heavy it is to lift, but they've not done a bad job at reprising it. And,
I bet there'll be a wry remark from the Duke of Edinburgh as he sees this, that there wasn't any real Britannia, so this is what we're reduced to now.
Yes, this is what we've been left with.
Doesn't look very ship-shape to me.
Well, it looks pretty splendid, and there we have pupils from the Royal Academy of Dance representing the waves, I think, in front of Britannia. Let's go over to Mel, who's got a special guest with her, I think.
Oh, hello there. I'm here with the inimitable, the one, the only, Esther Rantzen, in a very fine pair of dongles, Esther.
I'm known for my dongles, actually, and I can wiggle them.
She's wiggling the dongles. That's very good, Esther. Can I just say congratulations, first of all, because you received your damehood last year from the Queen, didn't you? How was that?
Well, that was amazing, but it was due to the hard work of some of the people here today who work for the NSPCC and Childline, and so I'm shining in their reflected glory.
You set up Childline 30 years ago. What an amazing achievement.
4 million children, more than 4 million children helped, so that's generations of staff and volunteers who made that possible. But it's wonderful for me because, as I say, I can go around the country, I can meet them and learn their stories and discover what a difference Childline has made, which is inspirational for me, keeps me going.
And are you having a lovely time here today, Esther?
We've got everything. We've got pouring rain.
Good.
Pouring rain.
Check.
Hampers with pork pies and sandwiches in. You can get to the loo without too long a queue, which for persons of my generation is quite important. You don't know about this.
I do, Esther, I do.
And all in the shadow of the palace, and every now and then extraordinary people walk by, some of them members of the royal family,
yes.
Some of them clutching rather threatening looking bagpipes and playing them. It's all good news.
It's really nice to talk to you, Esther. Thank you so much. Let's go back to Kirsty.
Esther and her dongles, thank you for that, just raising the tone, and thank you to you too, Mel. Katie Nicholl from the Mail on Sunday, we were just talking, you were mentioning that when you were talking to Peter Phillips, the Queen's, one of the Queen's grandchildren, about the organisation specifically to do with that beautiful boat that we're watching come up the Mall. He was explaining the technology behind it. There have been times and there have been moments when people have wondered whether or not this picnic was a very good idea, but there can be no question at all about the fact that for Peter Phillips it has been a gargantuan task of organisation.
Oh, huge. I mean, he was throwing an all-nighter last night. I mean, when I was just finished up on the Mall last night, everything was just starting. They worked through the night to get everything finished from trooping and this whole stage set up. I mean, the tent that they had to put up, he said, you know, usually it would take 3 or 4 days to do that. They had 11 hours. And can you imagine the clear-up operation after?
I don't even want to think about it.
I'm glad I'm not in charge of that.
Let's go back to Claire Balding.
We move on to the swinging 60s, so get ready to let it all go and sing along with the London Community Gospel Choir, performing with a little help from my friends and other 60s classics. They're followed by the Royal Academy dancers, entertaining us all with a routine inspired by the flower-powered generation of the era. And amongst the flowers and houses, you may be able to spot the Trellick Tower, Centre Point and the Royal Festival Hall. They're reflecting faith, built environment and architecture.
Keeping time and keeping tune there rather wonderfully. Those songs are being performed by around about 60 members of the London Community Gospel Choir. The founder and principal of that choir is the Reverend Basil Mead, and they are certainly in fine voice today, Twiggy. I can't help but immediately, this is about the 1960s, about faith, about the built environment. Let's just talk about the 1960s as a key cultural figure then. I don't know if you feel they're necessarily evoking any of the spirit of it, but they're certainly good fun to watch.
They've got the go-go boots.
They have got the go-go, and they wear them well.
And they wear them well. No, it's just wonderful. I mean, the choir is fabulous. I love the girls strutting their stuff.
They are.
In
They're
their
giving
minis.
it what for, aren't they? Remember those?
I do. I remember them well.
You're not supposed to remember the 60s if you were there.
I know. I was so straight. It was boring. I think it was because I was so young.
And that's why you look the way you look, because
Well,
you were so
thank
straight.
you.
That explains
I
it
remember
all.
my first trip to Paris, and a waiter said, "What would you like to drink?" And I said, "A soft drink, please." I was 16.
Yeah.
Doing a job for a big American magazine. And he said, "What do you want?" And I said, a soft drink, and he said, "What vintage, madame?" and marched away in disgust.
Now, Giles, let's talk for a moment about pipers. Twiggy and I have already said how much we enjoy a man in a kilt. I don't know about you, how you feel about it, Katie Nicholl.
I'm quite impartial to one, actually.
Tell
The
me.
Queen really enjoys a piper, and indeed
So much
she
so.
regularly has, at breakfast time, or a little bit later than breakfast, a piper playing for 15 minutes at Buckingham Palace and at Windsor and indeed at Balmoral, outside the window, to get her going in the morning.
Let's listen to the magnificent pipes now, shall we? So we're now watching in the parades the 60s being honoured. We should remind people, of course, that the Beatles were honoured with MBEs in the 1960s. They visited Buckingham Palace in 1965 to receive their medals and were then photographed on probably their most famous album cover ever, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, wearing their MBEs. And let's think for a moment, I suppose, and it may well be occurring to Her Majesty, Giles, the people who were so central to her life for so long, that were at the centre of that democratised 60s culture.
Indeed. Well, there was her sister, younger sister, the wild one, Princess Margaret, known as Princess Margaret Rose when she was a child, and then Princess Margaret. And she was one of the figures from the swinging 60s with her husband, Lord Snowdon, still alive, Tony Snowdon, great photographer. Very much swinging 60s figures. They dressed the part.
Absolutely.
I'm sure Tony Snowdon took photographs of you.
He did, beautiful photographs.
Yeah.
He's a wonderful photographer.
And
I had the pleasure of meeting her as well, and she was so beautiful.
And Twiggy,
so beautiful.
she was a stunning beauty in her day,
stunning.
Princess Margaret.
Breathtaking.
Was it, I mean, people now, cultural historians look back at the 60s, and the way that it is quantified is that, yes, it was the beginning of that meritocratic approach to society, but actually, did you experience it as such?
Yeah, when I first met Princess Margaret when I was like 17 years old, and I was very nervous.
So we've been watching them come down the Mall, and this is where the pipers that we're hearing so splendidly are reaching the Queen, and indeed HMS Britannia.
They'll be enjoying this picture.
And she's having a jolly good look at that, isn't she?
Yes.
She was having a good giggle, and notice that she's got Peter Phillips right next to her, so I'm sure he'll be explaining, because she might not know what on earth's going on. It takes a while to put it all together, doesn't it?
It was high risk, him taking this on, because royalty getting involved in organising an event, you're putting yourself, you're laying yourself open to criticism from the press. And some of us are old enough to remember Prince Edward having a go with running It's a Knockout, which to raise money again for charity, didn't totally work, and he was much criticised. Peter Phillips has been criticised for this, but clearly it's a complete triumph.
And there it is, HMS Britannia, or an approximation of it.
Look at her reaction to it.
She loves
She's
it.
She's
absolutely
She
delighted.
thinks that I want to see the Duke of Edinburgh, though. No, he'll be saying something. What's it? Made of tarpaulin? Some sort of kite, is it? Will it take off?
Time now to go back to Claire Balding. Claire.